I've been getting into some sci-fi lately.
Oh yeah, no, that's my thing, man. Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Farside TV. My co-host Jeremy Scipio had to hit a stage tonight, but I'm not even tripping. I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Terence Rosemore. How you doing, man?
I'm blessed, man, I'm really honored to be here with you, my brother.
All right, so I got to kind of break down. We're gonna get into some hip hop. We're gonna get into your acting and your writing and all that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna start many moons ago. Me in New Orleans, and okay, I'm gonna tell you a funny part about the night.
Okay.
So while I'm in New Orleans, a group that you played with at the time, Soul Remedy, was opening up for us. So this night was a night of truly testing my my management gangster, so to speak. So we get to New Orleans. I had been a couple times with the family, but I hadn't been with the group. And so we get to the House of Blues. House of Blues is always a comfortable venue. I really enjoy the food at all the venues across the country. And I want to say they had red fish or some kind of snap. You know what I'm saying? It was some kind of snapper. But the meal was incredible. And so before we hit the stage, I always get there early, and then the guys will probably get there about maybe 15, 20 minutes before they go on. But, you know, I just wanted to soak in New Orleans, you know what I'm saying? And I had the pleasure of seeing this group, man, by the name of Soul Remedy, man. It was your band at the time. You know, you were in the band. And the thing about it, the music was so infectious to me, man. Like our conversation earlier today, I felt like Soul Remedy was like a non-pop version of the Roots before neo soul became popular. And the thing that was so interesting to me was that, so I have family in Brookhaven, Mississippi, you know, down south, whatever. I was not expecting, which, you know, I've been pleasantly surprised several times. I wasn't expecting that to come from some people down south, you know, some people from New Orleans. Like, I was not expecting
maybe that. The Bay Area, but not New Orleans.
Nah, man, not on some straight up, like, rest in peace, you guys, guitar player. He was, man, he was like on some Jimi Hendrix next level, Ron Isley next level, yeah, with the pedals and all that kind of stuff. But he was playing a neo soul music, dude. It was you know, it was incredible. Put it this way, I was so thrown back by you guys that Bass and I became tight, you know, behind that. You know what I'm saying? Like, like to this day, you know what I'm saying? Right. To this day. Right. So with that being said, I wanted to kind of build you up so people could kind of understand that you come from several forms of the arts. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Soul Remedy, man. If you guys look it up on YouTube, man, I'm sure there's some stuff of Soul Remedy, but they were a really a group that was ahead of its time with the whole neo soul movement. And yeah, man, it captivated me. So with that being said, where were you the first time you heard hip hop, and what was the song?
I was in my bedroom listening to the radio in 1979, and it was Rapper's Delight.
Okay.
And I thought it was the DJ just messing around, playing the instrumental version of Good Times, right?
Okay.
Whatever that Chic song was.
Right. Uh-huh.
And so we had some very colorful local DJs, man. And so, you know, I'm like, oh, my man, rolling. You know, who's that? Whatever. I'm going to, I think I was in my freshman or sophomore year in high school. The next day, we get to class and we talking about it. He was like, say, dude, you heard that cat? Yeah, man. That was I'm getting chills thinking about it, man. That's the first rap song I heard, Rapper's Delight.
So when you heard hip hop, did you ever think that it would become a thing?
Well, like I said, man, I had to process it because when I first heard it, I just thought it was a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
But then they started playing that record all the time. But I'll tell you something else, man. I'm 57, so we literally were at the birth of hip hop. I'm 14 years old.
Okay.
So today, if you got skills, you can freestyle. Back in the day, you had skills if you could rap that song, the long version. and people would get around you and listen. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't your flow. You just knew all the lyrics.
Yeah.
And so you was the cat if you could roll that. And so so I'm a sophomore, and then they had some other, I forgot what else came up after that, but I don't even know if I was thinking of it on the terms of longevity. I tell you one thing I did think about early in hip hop, particularly when Run DMC and all these guys with the tracksuits and stuff. And I remember thinking, man, I wonder what those cats are going to be doing. They're 50 and 60 years old. Are they still going to be wearing these tracksuits, rapping? And they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fact. So when did you first realize you had a passion for music?
Early on, man. My mother's younger brother played snare drum in a high school band, Carver High School, same high school Marshall Falk went to. And so he would, at my grandmother's house in the Desire Projects, he would have all his broken drum heads and drumsticks in his room. And so every time we go over there, man, I'd pull out those drum heads and start beating on stuff. I used to beat on the walls. I was a natural drummer. I've never taken a drum lesson, a formal drum lesson.
Okay.
Tell you a crazy story how I got started playing. So third grade in New Orleans is the first time you can join the band. And I wanted to be a drummer, but they had too many drummers. So either I had to pick another instrument or I couldn't be in the band. So I picked saxophone because it looked cool and it sounded cool. And my father bought me a used rusty saxophone that had an alley. I never learned to play that thing because I would beat on if you got a pair of sticks, man, you get some great bounce back off of the case. So my dad, he thought I was BSing and said, man, I'd have spent, and whatever it was, man, it was a lot of money in 1973. It was a couple of $100. He bought this used horn, I remember, from Mr. Terragano. And it would be 8 years later. I was 8 years old when my dad bought me that sax. It would be 8 years later when I was 16, when he finally broke down and bought me a drum set, my first drum set.
You wore him down. You know what I'm saying?
I wore him down, man, because, I was like, hey, man, I bought you that sax and you waste my money, And so he finally said, got me a set of drums for Christmas, man. And that changed my life. And then it's crazy because I never played in the band. Never played drum. I think I acted like I was playing saxophone for a year, and then after that, I just didn't play. But funny story about that drum set. It was a red Apollo, which was like a little starter kit, a couple of $100. I moved out of my dad's house, my family house, when I'm like 20 or whatever. And I go back, one day to go get my drums. And my dad's in the house, him and my mom are divorced. He said, I thought I don't have those drums are not here. I thought you took them with you. And we had a little game room that was disconnected from our house with me and my friends. I had one of them little keyboards that had one of those organs.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't even a Casio. It was like a little blue or brown organ that kind of, you had some church keys on it where to play the organ. And so me and my friends would be back there with cowbells and stuff and be making up songs and jamming. So I go back to get my drums. My dad said, you took those drums when you moved. I said, no, I didn't. So for a long time, man, I thought my dad had threw my drums away. His younger brother called me like maybe 10 years later I said, hey man, we got a blues gig and I want you to come sit and drum. I said, man, I don't have no drums. He said, man, I got a little set. Just come, I said, man, I'm doing others. I don't have time. He said, man, just one gig. Come practice with us 1 week. Practice with them a week. There's these old OG cats from the Temptation vibe. We play at somebody's birthday party, man. Everybody loves us, man. I hadn't sat on a set of drums in about 10 years. So I'm at the end of the gig, I said, hey man, what do you want to do? What you want me to do with these drums? He said, keep them. I said, keep them? No, these are yours. He said, no, man. He said, when I was on crack, I took your drums and sold them from your dad's house. You keep these. That's how I got back to playing drums, man.
Oh, full circle, man. I love it, man. I love it. I love it. So getting deeper into it. So did you grow up in New Orleans?
I did. I was born in Great Falls, Montana, but I left there when I was 7 months old to New Orleans. And I lived in New Orleans until 2001 when I moved to California, moved to San Diego and then LA. And okay. So I was basically raised in New Orleans.
Okay. So when you were in middle school, what was the poppin' music going on at the time?
Let me see. I was in middle school, so that's like 6, 7 funk, okay. Parliament Funkadelic, Ohio Players. I recently wrote a list of my absolute favorite songs. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Funkadelic. You remember that?
My favorite song, man. I said if I ever had a kid, I'd curse him and I'd name him that, man. Funkadelic, man. That's my favorite song. Literally.
I remember where I was, man. We were at a picnic, like at some picnic, and they had a DJ, Slick Leo, man, who ended up being a friend of mine later on. As a matter of fact, he played a large impact on my taste of music. But anyway, I was just watching it. And I was thinking, like, man, I want to be a DJ because it's cool and you got everybody dancing. And he put that song on. And I went up and I said, say, man, what is that? He told me what it was or whatever. And bro, was that on the same album with Flashlight?
I can't remember. I cannot remember the album. What I do remember is that that song created my love affair for Bernie Worrell's him playing those keys, man. Like Flashlight, everybody was on that. And I think he did so much because what he did with the Moog on that was just, that was just next level. But what he did on Funkadelic, it was almost like he would do this thing where he would get loose with it and play funk, and then he would almost go into like some classical chords or something like that.
Exactly.
Like I'm gonna funk with y'all, but I'm gonna show you that I'm a superior musician to all of you. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely. Yeah. So let me see. So in middle school, 6, 7, 8th grade, man. So it was like stuff like Firecracker by Mass Production.
Okay.
Slide by Slave.
Yeah.
Glide by the Blackbirds.
So tell me this. You coming from New Orleans, you kind of skipped all over the meters and all, like that wasn't part, or you just kind of looked at that as like folk music and it wasn't really like funky like that to you?
I didn't have an appreciation for them until I got a little older, because what had happened was if they played them on, I think they played very few of their songs on local radio. Okay. They had like a not a gimmick, a novelty song called "They All Ask for You." Mm-hmm. You ever heard of that one? Mm-hmm. It's talking about the zoo. If you look it up. Okay. I went on down to the Audubon Zoo and they all asked for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like a Mardi Gras.
So that's exactly. So they played that on the radio, but like Sissy Strut and some of that other stuff on the local radios, like the mainstream radios, they didn't play local artists, man. Oh. And so, but getting back to that, some of the other groups that around that period was Windjammer, Chocolate Milk. You remember Chocolate Milk? Let me see, Chocolate Milk. They did a song called Blue Jeans, Groove City. You ever heard of a ballad called Groove City? That
Read
man
you.
looked up. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
my love affair with the meters kind of came around 1989, and
That's about what time I had an appreciation for him too.
all the rappers started sampling it, and the Super Cat just all like it, and it was crazy because it was like once one person sampled the meters, it's like that they were like the James Brown. They were like the James Brown of funk.
I got a funny story about the meters in Toulouse, France, right? So I'm playing drums for a Mardi Gras Indian group, tribe, which we call them. Mardi Gras music, it's that New Orleans stuff, like the Neville Brothers type Mardi Gras music type stuff. And so it's a river. I think we're next to the same river, and we were like one of the opening acts. And it's a very regional, very local, cultural thing. But the Mardi Gras Indians, man, what they do is they build these outfits by hand out of feathers, and sequins, and all that. And so they usually have a percussion player and some tambourine guys. But since we were kind of like, we scaled it up so we can do big gigs or whatever. So we had just opened for the Meters, and we're off stage. And at the time, it wasn't the original founding drummer, Zigaboo. It was Russell Baptiste, who I had actually went to high school with. And so I come off stage, and he gives me his sticks, and he said, "Sissy Strut, I gotta use the bathroom." So the band goes on stage, and every drummer from New Orleans know the beat to Sissy Strut.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, and when we were doing sound check, me and the bass player and maybe the keyboard player were jamming with it because they weren't there, And so I remember the bass cat said, "Oh, our bass cat." I think Tony. What's Tony? I forgot Tony's name. Man, Tony's played with everybody. He played with Tyler Perry when he was touring. But anyway, Tony was like, "What you know about this?" So I go, and it's all the original members except Zigaboo, the drummer. Russell's been their drummer probably for the last 25 years. So you know how it is like when the group split up, and it's the Meters, and then it's the funky Meters, kind of like what War did. It was they so I counted off. So George does a double take. Like, who the hell are you? Right? So I'm playing, and I feel like George Jetson on that thing. That James, stop this crazy thing. Because it's like an out of body. It's crazy, man, because when we opened, the field that we were playing in, there's a river to the left, and then maybe there's a fence with some trees, and it's like more narrow way, and it goes out then wide, the stage. It's like a festival, outdoor festival. So when we played, man, the thing was maybe a quarter full. By the time the Meters came on, man, it was people as far as the eye could see going back.
Yeah.
So I'm not even listening to these cats, man. I'm just like playing muscle memory. And I'm just, just keep telling myself, man, just breathe. Don't go too fast. Just breathe.
Don't mess it up.
And so Russell comes in the middle of the song, and he wants to switch out with me. I don't know how to do it. So he's saying whatever, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I'm just smiling. So finally we make the switch seamlessly, thanks to Russell. And then I leave off stage, and all the cats who I played was like, "Dude, what was that?" I was like, and that's how Russell is, man. Russell's a wild card, man.
Nah, that's tight. So we're gonna take you to high school.
Okay.
Your senior year in high school. What did you think your life was gonna be like once you crossed that stage, or once you completed high school?
Man, I really didn't know. It's 1982. I played football my senior year, but I knew I wasn't going to play football. At that point, I was thinking I wanted to be a DJ because people said I had a nice voice. I loved music, I had an uncle that worked for MCA Records. He was an executive with what's my man there, Clarence Avant. His name was Ernie Singleton.
Oh wow!
And he used to he used to give us promotional copies of albums and singles before they even came out on the radio. You know, they'd have the stamp, you know, for promotional use only. So I'm hearing stuff that would end up being iconic. Because what I do is his brother owned a lounge, a bar, and my dad's softball club, that was their spot. So he'd come home with a stack of albums, bro, or promotional stuff. And I would just go through them. You know, I just sit on with the headphones, man, all night and just listen. And at the time, man, I was, just like being a drummer, I never listened to the lyrics of songs. I just like the groove, the beat, the melody. And that's what I was listening to. But I think I was like kind of, wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. Brown University tried to get me to come play football. It wasn't a scholarship. I think they wanted to give me a grant. Mm-hmm. And I threw the letter in the trash because my father said if I go to a local school, he'll buy me a car. So I ended up going to the University of New Orleans, majoring in mass communications. Okay. And I knew I was going to do something entertainment-wise, man. At the time, I wasn't trying to be an actor. I had given up, thoughts of being a professional musician. I think the closest thing I was thinking was like, maybe I can DJ. Because to be honest with you, man, growing up in New Orleans, I hadn't heard of Spike Lee or any of the Black filmmakers. You know what I'm saying? And so I was just wide open, man. I was just like happy to get done with high school and ready for next, and all during, I'm gonna be honest with you, man, all during my parents kept a short leash. I went to Catholic school for most of my life. They kept a short leash on me. Okay. And I hated it because I was like, yo, man, y'all don't, I got to stretch out, man. Y'all holding me back. And so I just ran wild.
I believe
it was like, have you ever have a dog and you leave the gate open?
Yeah, I've had a few.
And that dog, and it's like, yeah. So it's like, look, man, he gonna come back. I don't know when, but he'll be back. And they come back like 2 or 3 days later. They're all dirty. They look like they've been through some stuff.
Hey, man, I can imagine.
But yeah, man, I was really just, I was just, I think I just wanted to go out. And it was crazy, man, because as strict as my parents was, my senior year, the gate was actually open for that whole year. I didn't realize until towards the middle of the year that I had that freedom. Because they had me trained to being constrained.
Hey, man.
And so one day I opened that gate like, oh, it's open.
Hey, man, I totally understand. So, okay, so you graduate from high school, and how did your relationship with Cash Money, how did that come to be?
Good friend of mine. I tell you what, man, this is I started working with Cash Money in 1999. So this is years after, I've graduated out of high school. I'm acting. I had started as an actor in 1989 on a dare from a girlfriend. And through the grace of God, I don't know how I did it, but I just knew that acting was a stepping stone towards, producing and doing other stuff. And so my goal was to get on set as a PA, as the lowest level of whatever, and then work my way up. And basically that was my film school. They were going to pay me to teach me how to, do films. The school that I went to, University of New Orleans, at the time, it didn't have a film department. Now it does. But at that time, mass communication, broadcast TV was what you could do. But anyway, man, a buddy of mine, I've been begging him for 2 years. I said, man, I'll do anything. I just want to be on set of a movie to, so I can learn. I'm not trying to get acting work. I really want to produce and direct or whatever. And so 2 years later, man, he said, hey, we're doing this movie with Cash Money Records, and we need an office PA, a gopher. And basically, I made copies, coffee. I'm 36 years old, and I've been in the game 10 years, and I basically reinvented myself and had to start at the bottom. And I ended up within about 2 weeks, man, they fired the casting director, and they knew I had an acting background. They were like, hey, man, you want to be the casting director? And they had just started shooting the movie, and everything was kind of chaotic. And I was about to say, hey, man, I'm good. I think I might have been making like $600, working 6 days a week in 1999. My rent was like $375. You know, I was flush with some cash from a commercial I had done. I'm Gucci. But then I was about to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And they said, we'll give you an extra 500 on top of what you're making a week. So I said, I'll take it. And not only that, man, I so I'm casting the movie. I mean, they fired the casting director after 1 day of shooting. I might have been with him 2 weeks in pre-production, and then first I heard when he got fired before he heard, and so on top of that, and that's a whole crazy. I could write a book about what happened with that, but I on top of being the casting director for the film, they started asking me to be the casting director for their music videos. So every time I did that, that's $375 a day a pop. So I'm talking about 3 or 4 days in the middle of the week, on the weekends. So I'm making, $1,100 here, and then I'm making another like maybe almost grand here in 1999 in New Orleans.
When money was
so
something.
I was able to stack up some chips. And I'll tell you what's ironic about it. Most of the money, a lot of the money that I made from Cash Money helped fund our first album, the Soul Remedy CD.
Oh wow!
So I was able to use that money to finance our first project.
Did you, without going into too much detail, while you were working with Cash Money, did you understand the genius behind it? Like while it was happening?
I did. At first, I didn't. I didn't want to work with him. Main reason why I didn't want to work with him, a good friend of mine, she had did some business with him, and they didn't want to pay her, and I had to go with her to get paid. And this was a couple of years before. And when we went up, they paid her with no problem. And so I was like, you know what, man, these cats they're rock stars.
Yeah.
They're not film people, so they're not going to respect the process. And, and then I just didn't get it. But my first day in the office might have been a Monday or whatever day it was, but I think it was a Monday. They premiered Back That Thing Up on MTV. At the world debut. And it was like a little hood video. And that's what I realized. And then, just from being there like 2 or 3 days, man, I saw the business genius. I saw how on the surface it looks kind of raggedy and raw and street, but it was pure genius of how they ran their business. That's what I saw.
Yeah, I can imagine because one of the things that I encounter is that when people do what they do really good and they have a vision, it's like listening to an unmastered song. Like when you're listening to it and it's not mastered, it's music is what it is. But when it's mixed down, it's mastered, the vocals are laid, overdubbed, all that, then you're like, dang, this is what it is. And then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. So it's probably another thing with them moving with the resources they had. It was kind of like they were doing the best that they could and kind of like working their way up to the point of where they could obtain more resources to just really get it popping. So
right.
What made you want to attempt acting?
I had an uncle, my father's younger brother, who was an actor. And he was doing plays, and my parents would go to the plays, and whatever. I was always a class clown, had no aspirations of being an actor. My uncle would always say, "Man, you'd be good at this." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." One night, 1989, I'm at a play called The Beauty Shop. A guy named Shelley Garrett, who was the original Tyler Perry. He was out of LA, and he would do these black plays, and he'd go on tour, man, and make, a lot of money. And we're at the play, me and my then girlfriend, mostly female audience. Usually what happens when you're a closet comedian or whatever, you tell your little stories, you get your laughs, and that's your validation. You don't have to go in a comedy club or whatever. You just get that, okay, yeah, I'm funny. I could do this if I wanted to type vibe. And so there was a guy who was a very good-looking guy, and he was a mailman. Every time he walked on stage, all the women in the audience went crazy. And so I remember saying, shit, I could do that. And then my girlfriend at the time said, well, then stop talking about it and do it. And all these girls, all these women are laughing at me, man. And I'm sitting there kind of bitter, because she didn't, made me the butt of her joke. That next day, it was a Sunday. I'm sitting watching the Saints play the 49ers. I'm still bitter. But then I checked myself and I said, you know what? She's right. People always tell you this, that, and you say, oh, yeah. I was 25 at the time. Do you want to be sitting here 25 years from now in the same recliner talking about coulda, woulda, shoulda? Gee, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I made up my mind that I said, you know what, man, I'm going to at least pursue it. And, if it's something that I could do, I'll do it, blah, blah, blah. I go to school. I was going to night school at Southern University the next night. And on my way to my class, there's a poster, auditions. This is before cell phones that can take pictures. So I said, yo, when I get out of class, I'm going to take this information now. I go in my class, and my instructor, my professor, was the director of the play, and he was also the director of the theater company that my uncle performed with. Oh, he didn't know I was this guy's nephew. And he was passing back papers, and he said, you have a very booming voice. You should come out for my play. And I did. And that's how I got started. So I literally, that was my first time experiencing manifestation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Without even knowing it, man. Just sitting, really being butthurt and really having to do a gut check was like, you know what? She's right. So I said, you know what, man? I'm gonna do it. And for a long time, I thought I was afraid to fail. But I learned that after about 5 or 6 years being in the game, I was actually afraid to succeed.
Hey, man, I can testify to everything that you're talking about, man. I've been there. It's almost like you dumb yourself down, but you don't even understand that it's you standing in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different when it's circumstances. You know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with circumstances. You're just not moving towards it. But no, man, there is for me, there's no greater feeling than making something happen by intention. You know what I'm saying? Like luck, that'll happen like maybe 1 out of 12, 13 times, something like that or whatever. But when
I believe you create your own luck.
Yep.
You heard me?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would definitely say, you know, my thing is this on a religious level.
Meaning that if I want to get struck by lightning, I have to create the conditions for that to happen. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Like I was saying, like on a religious level, the creator may give you the opportunities, but you got to be ready for the opportunity. Like you got to do a little something. You know what I'm saying? You can't. It's not just all gonna be laid out for you. That's just not how life works. So, you started acting. So, you moved to Los Angeles. Now, when you come to Los Angeles, are you involved in the entertainment industry while you're in Los Angeles?
I am, but in a different capacity. So what happened was I moved a month and a day after 9/11. I moved to California in 2001. October 12th, 2001. I moved to San Diego because everything was shut down after 9/11. Hollywood was shut down. I had a cousin that lived in San Diego. So I said, yo, man, can I come hang with you, till it's time to move, till the industry opens back up. So he said, yeah. So I moved. I stayed with him for maybe a month or two. I got an apartment. My then fiance and her daughter moved in to San Diego with me. And then we moved to LA. We moved to LA on a Friday. On Monday, I was working on a movie set, again as a PA. I'm 36 years old at this time. Maybe 36, about 36 years old at the time, 36, 37. And it's funny because the year that I moved to LA was the year Louisiana got tax credits. And I ended up working in Louisiana just as much as I did in LA. And at that point, I wasn't acting anymore. I was a personal assistant to actors and directors and producers. Mm-hmm. So one of the first people I worked with as an assistant was Clarence Williams III, who just recently passed away.
Okay.
Cool guy, great stories, iconic. Bill Cosby got him into the game. Because Bill Cosby at the time in the late 60s was the white bread, very, very safe brother to do comedy, right? And so Bill's idea was like, yo, man, we need them to see that we come in all different flavors. And they see a brother with you who's tall and got this serious countenance with this big afro, and they scared of you because you look like a Black Panther. But we need to let them know that, you're a great actor and this, that, and the other. And so that's how he got started, man. Bill Cosby got him on the Mod Squad.
And for the record, I did watch Tales from the Hood last week.
The shit.
Yeah, no, he did his thing. So, what was your pathway to being a part of Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
I think I moved back to New Orleans. So just give you a little quick. So I'm in LA, man, and I'm not acting. I'm writing. I just wrote a bunch. I worked. I'm cultivating relationships with people. I'm working as a director and a producer and an actor's assistant. I'd worked with Halle Berry on Monsters Ball, David Arquette, all kind of people. I moved back to Louisiana. My dad's getting older. My son's about to graduate out of high school. It's time to go back home, get close to my roots. Mm-hmm. So I started, I think for about 6 or 7 months, man, I was auditioning. I couldn't buy a gig. I finally, start booking some stuff. I get an agent in Atlanta since my family's out here because I'm constantly, doing stuff. The audition itself, man, was like the simplest, smallest thing that I didn't even know what I was auditioning for. Because a lot of times when they have these big projects, they give them a code name. So if it's Black Panther Part 2, they might call it Clover or something like that. And you don't even know coming in what it is. Sometimes your agent will be like, it's really Black Panther, but they're calling it whatever. I didn't even know because at that time in Atlanta, they were about to shoot Black Panther. They were about to do Spider-Man, some other thing. Because there's a studio out, Trilith. There used to be Pinewood in Atlanta where they shoot all the Marvel stuff. So my character is henchman number 1. And my exact audition was, there he is, get him. And then I shoot at him and then I run off screen. So I'm thinking whoever it is, I'm gonna get killed early and soon. So I'll do this. They asked us to do it three times, 3 different ways. There he is, get him. What I didn't know who we was talking about was Rocket Raccoon, who was one of the iconic characters of Guardians, right? so I just do the little audition, man. Send it in. It's right before the holidays. Being back to New Orleans, I get a call from my agent, and I'm about to not take it because I'm almost at the Alabama state line, and I don't want to turn around and say, "Oh, you got to call back for something." So I answer the phone. I was like, "You booked it. You booked Guardians of the Galaxy," and I'm like, "What are you talking?" I didn't even know, what they were talking about. And so they told me what it was. I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know what it was." And it ended up being at that point, man, the biggest thing that I had done from a financial standpoint. And even just in the scale of the production, man, it was just like that little bitty audition turned into this big old thing, man. And so, yeah, that's crazy how that happened.
And how was the Comic-Con experience?
Oh man, that was my first time going to a Comic-Con in my life. And I shot with them from like maybe February to like April or May. And then in June or July, whatever Comic-Con is, they flew us out to San Diego. They hid us in the hotel because they didn't want people to know that we were going to crash have you ever gone to Comic-Con? So you're
No,
familiar with Hall H, right?
yeah, I've been there before, but I've been in San Diego while Comic-Con was going on, but I never actually went in. But no, you got everything from 10-year-olds to 60-year-olds.
I've never been to one, man, and Hall H is the biggest hall. And that's where they have like all the big reveals, So Marvel did this thing where they ended up bringing the entire Marvel universe on stage at the same time. So, but the audience didn't know that was going to happen. So normally the way they set it up was they brought in, Kevin Feige, because that's where you leak and you premiere top secret stuff at Comic-Con. And so they were showing some footage that only this audience was going to see from Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange, and they snuck us in to the back of the auditorium in full makeup and in costume, and then they brought James Gunn on. Everybody lost their mind, and he says, "Okay, we're going to bring the cast and crew of Guardians," and then we come from the back of the auditorium as Ravagers, knocking people's popcorn out their hand, just acting like pirates. Come in, and then we get on stage and we kick the chairs over, and we just, we didn't just invaded the whole thing. So that was
Motley Crue.
Man, that was just exactly, man. So that was, and I tell you, man, it was crazy because after we did our little thing, they brought the main crew on, but they put us backstage and they were going to bring us back. And sitting behind us was the entire lead cast of Black Panther, including Chadwick, Lupita, all the main players of Black Panther would literally sit behind us and look, man, I'm the only Black Ravager. And I wanted so bad to turn around and say, "Hey, man, I love y'all," and this, that, and the other. But I wanted to be, but you know how it is, man. If you're at the Oscars or the Grammy and Prince is sitting behind you, he's like, "Man, I gotta chill. I can't,
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man, it was my first. It was my first Comic-Con, and I didn't even get to go to the con itself because they flew us in. They kind of hit us, and then I think we did our thing on Saturday night. I had to be to the airport at 6 o'clock the next morning, so I didn't even get a chance to actually go on the floor of the Comic-Con itself because I had to fly back out.
Oh man, you had what you were supposed to have, man. Just enough, you know what I'm saying? just enough to get in and hit it. And so after that, what was your process to Just Mercy?
Oh man, that was another one, man. It was just it was a blessing. Two of my best friends, man, brother named Darryl Handy and another brother Al Mitchell. We met on that set. These guys are older than me, and one's from Chicago, one's from New York, and I played Jamie's best friend, Endemo. And so again, when I auditioned, man, I auditioned for like 3 different roles. I think Rob is in it. Your friend, Rob.
He is, yeah.
I think I auditioned for that role too. You know, that's what they'll do, man. They'll send you 3 or 4 different roles. And, you know, I just do my thing. And I'm the type of cat, man, when I audition for stuff, once I put it in the can, I'm walking away. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, when I book something, it's like a surprise to me, you know, because I'm not sitting by the phone like, hey, hello, yes, this is he. You know, and to be honest with you, man, one of the reasons why I got back into music from a professional standpoint was to give me something creative to do in between acting and gigs. You know what I'm saying? And I'm also a visual artist as well. And so, so yeah, man. So the process, man, it was like they let me ad lib. I forgot the director's name, man. Brother came up to me when I went to the wardrobe fitting, and he said, "Look, man, I know it's a small role, but we're really, really happy to have you." I said, "Man, every role is a blessing. I don't believe in small roles, only small actors. You know, I hear a lot of my brothers complain because they didn't get something or they didn't, you know, all this, whatever, man. But so many times I've been in something small and it turned into something huge. You know what I'm saying?
I had that conversation with Rob because I was a fan before we became friends, and you know, we had a mutual friend, and I followed Rob based off of I became familiar with him through Luke Cage. Luke Cage and then the other Netflix Marvel stuff going on. And so I was just a super fan of his work. And I hit my boy up and I was like, dude, he's in town, man. Is it any way you can make this happen? It was the same day. So I hit him up the day of the situation. And so then he was like, well, nah, man, he's a cool dude, man. Let me call him. Let me see. So then I hit him up. He came down, and afterwards we were talking, and I said something like that to him. I was like, man, I love what you do in these Marvel shows because you have these small parts and you do, and he's like, and he just stopped me in my tracks. That's just like, he's a very, I guess when he gets to know you, like he's a very forward type cat. He's nah, there's not large roles and there's not small roles. He said some roles just have a longer time limit than others. But he said, if you give me anything, I'm going to kill it. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not about a huge role or a small role because you can take what you're given and you can just, that little thing, you can do your thing so hard that even though you don't have the same amount of time, you stand out like, man, because with his character Turk Barrett, which is part of the universe, he really doesn't have a lot of time on screen. But when he gets that time, you feel every lick of what Turk is, you know what I'm saying, of what he's of who he is. You know who he is. Like they never really filled out his, because I've followed Turk through I believe maybe 1 or 2 episodes of Jessica Jones, but definitely on Daredevil, definitely on Luke Cage.
Right.
But even though they didn't give that character a lot of time, whenever Rob did his thing, you felt like you knew the character. You know?
Absolutely. And look, man, I did you see him in Don't Look Up?
No.
Man, it's one of the biggest roles I've seen him in, and he knocked it out the park, bro.
Yeah, he actually has something. Yeah, he's got a couple things in the pipe, and it's funny because when I tell people about, or when I describe people to him, and I'm say, yo, you know, my homeboy, he's an actor, he's the guy, and when I describe him, I say, think of who, like maybe Lawrence Fishburne or Denzel. We'll say Denzel. Think of who Denzel Washington was to Spike Lee movies, and like that, like the guy who he had in his movies and whatnot. And then think about Netflix has a guy who's a black guy, and he's just in everything, like literally in everything. Like, and when I say everything, and I've had the conversation with him, I'm like, man, you got the plug, you got the hook. He's like, nah, man. He said, I audition for everything. He's like, I did, I just get the roles. And I was like, man, because it amazed me to see him in Stranger Things. You know what I'm saying? He was the he's the sheriff officer that. So yeah,
look, the first time this is how I am, man. First time I think that's the first time I noticed him in something. That and yeah, I think it was that. So as soon as I see a face that I haven't seen before, and especially if they're bringing it, I'm on IMDb, man. Who's this?
Okay.
Number one, because it's my competition a little bit, and number two, I just like it keeps me informed that because to a lot of people, I came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was cats who, like, what you're saying about Rob and everywhere, and so when I saw him on Stranger Things, it wasn't a big role, man, but I was like, man, who is this cat? And that's what keeps me going, man, because there's always somebody you never heard of, regardless of how old they are, how long they've been doing it, who can come and take food off you.
And you know what? That's acting when your mere presence does, like, that is the theatrical part. You know what I'm saying? Just like your presence in the mix of these other people and things are going on, but you stand out like that. So I'm gonna jump back to hip hop real quick. Being that you came from New Orleans and everything, what was it like you watching the South being looked at somewhat? And this is with no disrespect. This is with no disrespect.
Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real, man. Let's keep it real.
The South being looked at kind of like as a joke when it comes to hip hop, and it kind of being like, okay, New York is the East Coast, LA is the West Coast. And then out of nowhere, the South just comes so hard with so much music and so much talent to the point of where they become a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not the East, they're not the West, but they're the South. Like it really becomes a thing. What was it like to watch that happen? Because I'm sure you had to see it happen. To you mentioning that you saw was it Back That Thing Up?
Mm-hmm.
The Cash Money song. You watching the Cash Money song kind of blow up on MTV and all that. What was it like to witness kind of like the changing of the guards in the South starting to get its recognition?
It was cool, man, because like, look, we all grew up on New York, because New York looked at LA the way everybody looked at the South. You know what I'm saying? on the real, even though you cats have been doing some real underground, real stuff, the fact that these cats, I think there's a bit of regional prejudice,
Mm-hmm.
That happens. And so I knew it was a matter of time. And the thing that hurt New Orleans is that New Orleans is known for jazz, Dixieland jazz, something that's over 100 years old. Some of the best artists, man, that I'd seen, just like us, man. I saw cats, but it was crazy because you had to leave. Normally, as musicians, even going back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s, man, you had to go to either New York, Chicago, or LA. I tell you what the route was. Let's go back to Louis Armstrong. Mm-hmm. So you start off in New Orleans, you get on a riverboat, you go to St. Louis. Once you got good enough up there, then you went to Chicago. Once you got good enough in Chicago, you went to New York. Once you was ready to go do movies and everything else, you moved to LA. So that was the migration route of the early jazz musicians. So for me to see it, man, I thought it was cool, but I honestly felt, no disrespect to Cash Money or No Limit, but there were other underground rappers who were a couple of years before them who I think had better content and lyrical flow, but there just wasn't the infrastructure to get them beyond the regional base. So I think it's just kind of like a flavor of the month type thing, because It was Memphis, it was Houston, it was St. Louis, even with the rap in Florida. You know what I'm saying? And so
the South just
yeah,
came and just took it, man. It's just like, man, it's like the only people that could have saw it coming was the record company people, man. Because as a someone who likes music, I just looked at it like, okay, that's what they like down there. You know what I'm saying? And that's just kind of, that's just kind of what it was. And then you have Outkast, where, Outkast just did so much because it was kind of like a non-threat. It was like the Tribe Called Quest of the South, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But
what's the other? Shock G and them. What's the name of that group?
Digital Underground.
That was yeah. That's who I saw Outkast and that whole Dungeon family being like. I'm gonna be honest with you. Even before the New Orleans stuff blew up, when I looked at Atlanta and the Dungeon family and what they were doing and was peeping them out, I was like, man, that's what we could do as a city, because we got a whole different flavor. The thing about the guys in the South, man, is like, how like hip hop and rapping on a national scale got to a point where we had to call a timeout because it got toxic, right?
Yeah.
The cats in the South, they wasn't even on that tip as far as dealing with the other spots.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I found funny about Cash Money when I worked with him was all the iconic guys that came through, man, gave them love, and they didn't write them off. And they gave them serious love. It wasn't just patronizing because I'm in your backyard. It was like, man. And I think part of it was that what they did on a business tip, how they flipped that game. And I'm gonna trip your head out. Louis Armstrong was the first American to make popular music pop. Okay, he's from New Orleans. In other words, he took this jazz music that was considered hip hop, just like blues was out there, and he turned it into the most popular music and the most popular export outside the world. Tyler Perry, Cash Money, No Limit. These cats came from nothing, did this regional game plan. Tyler Perry, same thing, man. The deal that Tyler Perry signed with Lionsgate, where he keeps the copyright to all his stuff. So basically, he kind of did the same kind of deal Universal had, but they were just doing a distribution and promotion deal with Lionsgate for those years that he had. So it's crazy, man. All of the people who have, in music and film, who have changed the business landscape came from New Orleans. But what's crazy is New Orleans doesn't support or doesn't have the infrastructure. It doesn't have what Atlanta has. You see what I'm saying? Or LA has. And so it's just kind of like this. You've got great artists, but you really either got to do it yourself or you had to do what Cash Money and them did and sign with a large entity. And even with that, you had to sell some regional units. And somebody had to be smart enough to say, hey, man, let's go get those cats. I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh no, that was a good one. You went into it because I look at it and I the South to me was good food, pretty and some polite women, Southern hospitality.
You say pretty and what women?
And polite.
Okay,
polite. Some, not all of them polite, but that was my my family from Mississippi. So it's like so my version of the South was just very like
compared to big women from big cities like Chicago.
Oh yeah. And so I feel like me personally, I kind of focused. I allowed the South to be a sleeper because I didn't see them as a force coming up or whatever. And then, but I will say, when you start to hear the 8 Ball and MJGs, when you start hearing the UGKs, and you start hearing these cats that were really rapping and really had like the funky bass line, like a lot of the musicianship. Like they really, that's the one thing that I will credit the South on. And people in New York have done it and LA have done it, but it's kind of different with the South. The South will really come and get the players, like the real players, to come in and play behind that music, man. And you know, and take it to a whole nother level. Yeah, and take it to a whole nother level. So
yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. We got a living legend, a brother named Don Bartholomew. His father was Dave Bartholomew. Dave wrote and produced most of Fats Domino's biggest hits. They were probably the first millionaires out of New Orleans as a result of the music industry. But Don, as a result of his father's success, he was the only African American in the city in the 80s, in the early and mid, late 80s, that had production quality LA, New York soundboard. And so Cash Money, No Limit, anybody who ever did anything legitimate, they would buy time from Don to go through his studio to go get their stuff done, because he was the only cat that had a legitimate board. So
no static.
You know, yeah, so he would call these legendary cats who played with his father to, you know, drop a bass line, a guitar, a keyboard, and then they chop it and sample it up. So that was the thing, like you said, man, you got all these, one of the differences between the South is that, and particularly in New Orleans, you have a very small Black middle class. So in New York, you got Fifth Avenue, LA, you got Beverly Hills, in Chicago, you got whatever, and you see all this shiny stuff around you. And there's a few brothers. Most of these people are Caucasian, but you see some cats doing that. In the South, man, everybody is like, as long as I'm doing just as well as the next cat, I'm cool. We weren't invested into material stuff as much. So it wasn't that ambition to be rich and famous as it was to create and put out good work and tell your story. Does that make sense? And so by there not having an industry here, I think that affected, and it was fresh. It was new to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of like, it's almost kind of like when you listen to cats from St. Louis and Memphis and Houston and New Orleans, it's like, okay, y'all just like us, same but different. You know what I'm saying? Different flavor. Y'all going through the same hardships we going. Y'all got the same baby mama troubles we got, and the cops and this and that and the other, but it's just a different flavor, and it's got and I think we all attracted to something new. You know what I'm saying? And so that I think that kind of played into it too, man. So I tell you what I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, man, when I lived in LA, man, I got an opportunity to check out the old school, not the old school, but man, like the underground LA hip hop scene, which you guys are part of. As a matter of fact, y'all might have been in this little documentary. There was a documentary about that scene about maybe 10, 15 years ago. Somebody did a documentary.
Yeah, Ava DuVernay. Good Life.
I don't know if it was her or not, but it was that little spot where everybody used to go over there.
Yeah, the Good Life.
Coffee, do the poetry. That's it. Your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. So I never, about LA, but when I got there, man, I met all these cats. It's funny because when I got to LA, man, I used to go in the studio with cats, and they would like me being a New Orleans drummer. And it was crazy because I was born with one foot in hip hop, and funk and soul, and then another foot like in what's new. And so all these little young white kids would hire me to go put me in the studio and sample my drums, man. And they would be doing some killer stuff. Yeah, and so I met all of these underground. You ever met a guy called Blackbird in LA who does like some alt rock, funk, hip hop stuff? Mm-hmm. Blackbird, they call him Bird.
Yeah,
I think his name is Million Cat. Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah,
this
man.
cat was like he was back, like he goes back 20, 30 years, man. Just an artist, man, just doing his thing. He's kind of like on some Fishbone stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I was really pleasantly surprised at the underground LA hip hop scene that is way underrated in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I witnessed a lot, man. I can say that I've seen the documentaries and I see the frustration in the guys that are speaking, and they're like, man, like there's this one guy, he's a musician by the name of Volume 10, and he had this song called Pistol Grip Pump, and he, his thing was Ice Cube came and bit my style and everything, and he kind of did, he kind of did, and to look at Volume 10 get interviewed, he was like, the West Coast, we were this far. Like he was like, man, we were just this far. And they were that close, man. They were that close.
The whole scene was about to bust open.
Yeah, but man, the powers that be, man, it's and that's the part. So there's the show part and there's the business part. And a lot of people forget about the business part. You know what I'm saying? The easiest thing, and I would tell artists, the easiest thing to do is to go into a studio and start writing rhymes and producing beats and getting all that kind of stuff together. The difficult part is the agreement that everyone's going to hold after all that show part is done. And that's kind of why, I had an R&B cat that I was dealing with, and I would tell him, I'm like, dude, before you go into these writing sessions, before you get, because he was able to work with some pretty, large, he was able to be in the company of some very accredited singers, songwriters, people, whatever. And I was like, man, if you're going to collaborate with these people, if you're going to go around them, I know you don't want me to mess it up for you and be like super business on it, but like, dude, at least shoot an email, like send something where they're acknowledging, writers publishing credit, just something, because the thing about it is when you do the show part and you don't have the business part right, when it takes off, I've just seen all the passion sucked out of artists to the point of where artists didn't even want to do their art anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're like, man, I can't believe it.
Exactly, man. And that's the thing, man. It's like, we all start, man. We all want to be we all storytellers, man. Regardless of what medium you work in. If you're an actor, you're a writer, you're a painter, you're a dancer, you're a musician, we tell stories. And that's the most innate, most primitive part of it. If you want to do it for a living, it's not called show business. It turns into the business of show. Mm-hmm. And I always tell, I used to teach acting and filmmaking. I always tell people, man, go and study. And that's the part, because I think most artists are like, I'm going to blow up and then I'm going to hire somebody to be my accountant and my lawyer and my this and my that. And I always tell people, if you're really, really, really serious, if you're not doing this just, community theater, the high school, the church play, and you really want to do this on any level, regardless of what medium you're using, you have, because you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You are an entrepreneur. You now, to say that you want to be a musician, an actor, a writer, you now run a small business. And you have to treat it like a brick and mortar business. Because of technology and new resources, things are a lot, you have more access to info, than you've ever had. So there is no excuse for you not to know. And my thing is, if you, because I even had to do that, man. It's like, it got to a point where it's like, yo, man, I want to work in movies. Because I was writing plays, producing them. I was going all over the world doing plays. Then it got to a point I was like, yo, man, I want, what I make in New York doing a play, I can make that in 1 day or 1 week on a movie set. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to do. But before I did that, I sat down for a couple of weeks and I asked myself, am I willing to put in 250% effort, time, whatever. And at the end of the day, I'm not guaranteed a seat at the table. Am I okay with that? Do I know what I'm signing up for? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't something I answered in a day or a week. I really thought about this, man, because I was sitting on some cash and it was either buy a house or invest in some stuff or whatever, or invest in myself, in my own production company. And so I had very few people that I could talk to people about the craft of acting, but I couldn't talk to anybody about the business because I didn't know anybody who was playing at the level of the people I saw was aspiring to, like Spike and them. But what I did do was I bought Spike Lee's companion, every movie that he directed for the first maybe 10 films, maybe even more. He published a companion journal with each of those books. And I think I had like I wouldn't say it was a blueprint, but you're on this journey with him of everything that can go wrong on a film set and what he had to do to get through it. And so that was my education, those Spike Lee companion books to his films. He did one for She's Gotta Have It, Mo Better Blues, School Days. Man, as a matter of fact, I started writing my own journal in '94. And I recently went back, I'm editing a book out of it. And it's funny because the first 2 years, I was just book. You know what I'm saying? Before I found my own voice. I was literally just biting style or whatever, man. And so that's the thing, man. You got to just, it is the business of show, and you've got to be versed in that and understand. You got to ask yourself, am I built for this first and foremost? And you got to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's real. So I'm gonna hit you with the last one, man. And this is a good one. Where do you see social interaction going in the next 2 years?
In the next 2 years. Ooh, that's a good one, brother. That's one I'm meditating on right now, brother, because there is a change going on with the NFTs and stuff and the cannabis. And I mean, it just I remembered I was always ahead of my time, meaning that the technology we have, I had plans for that. And it was just waiting on it to be, waiting for bandwidth. So I could, me and my writing partner, C.L. Taylor, we were one of the first African-Americans to create a web series in 2005, 2006. We had our own virtual network before Netflix. And I've always been, like I said, man, what I do is I look at the past. I look at when radio came, when the movies got sound, when TV came, when digital came. I always look at these things historically. And all of these little cycles, they go and come around. They may come around as different things. And so one of the things that I've literally been doing is just sitting still and just observing. And for up until COVID, man, I always had younger artists around me, kind of like Miles and all the old jazz cats. They would get these guys because they were cheaper to hire, but also too, they were pushing them in places, in new places. And that's why Art Blakey and all these cats always had Bradford and Winton when they were 18, 19 in their band. So I always surrounded myself with younger cats. And the exchange would be, I'm going to tell you most of the stuff I know, and then you let me know what's fresh. So that was my deal. But since we've been in lockdown and I haven't been teaching and I still interact with a few of my students, but not as many. So one of the things I've been doing, man, is really just sitting and just looking at the technology and seeing where that's going, because now it's TikTok. What's next? Remember it was Instagram? The gram is still whatever. Once your parents get on Facebook and the gram, the younger kids they're not trying to have it as their main deal. So I've got one of my former students is my assistant. She actually is in Louisiana. And so she's about 20, 21. I got a couple of other proteges. It's always just I'm asking them questions. So that's a good question, man. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I'm very curious. What do you think it's going to be?
I can't call it, man. I can't call. I've said it was going to be so many different things, and it's kind of gone in another direction. Like, so when COVID first jumped off, the pulse of the I guess the pulse of it that I was able to interpret came from people at Live Nation, AEG, Golden Voice, just, the people that I know there or who I would talk to. And then also other people. I have my goddaughter's father is a business manager, pretty, he's in the mix or whatever. So I talked to all these people because they're dealing with the money that kind of drives everything, like the true entertainment industry, not the acting part of it, but the live entertainment industry. Like these are people that kind
like the majority of most of those artists' income, right?
Yeah.
Comes from right.
Yeah. So what they were saying when it first jumped off was like 2023, 2024, everything was going to open up and be back cracking and popping or whatever. But they would tell the public like 2021, 2022, and just kind of keep pushing it back, right. Pushing it back.
Right. Absolutely.
For me, I just kind of couldn't fathom like a Coachella and all these type of festivals because I felt like who would take the liability for that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then at the, at the beginning times, people were so anti-vax that it was just kind of like, I'm not going to take it. I don't going to, this blah, 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 blah. But then a lot of people that were anti based on the large amount of carnage that we were able to witness. I feel that anyone that's over the age of 16 or 17 from before pandemic times to now, I feel like they kind of have the same stress as just seeing as many people get killed in Vietnam. Like it's like the amount of people that we've seen die is not normal. Like it's just very far from normal. And it does, impale the stress load. And then on top of the stress, as like a survival mechanism, I feel people have desensitized themselves to death a lot. You know what I'm saying? And like, okay, we get violence. The United States has always been violent, so there's always, you have that percentage of death that comes from violence, but you're seeing people that were in a picture of health. You know what I'm saying? You're seeing people that were the picture of health put faces to. I have a cousin. He's a 3-time Olympian, and I asked him the question about the future, and I was talking to him about Corona, and he said, he said, so I think I interviewed him sometime over the summer. So he said within a 12-month span, he lost 13 people that he knew. You know what I'm saying? And he was like,
I've lost 20.
Wow. I felt that I was alive. I lost 5 family members, like 5 cousins, like, 5 cousins. I felt like that was a lot. You know what I'm saying? But we're just living in different times, man. And once again, I was sick a week ago, sicker than, I got over it about maybe 5 or 6 days ago. But I was more sick than I've ever been in my adult life, like more sick. It wasn't coronavirus. I kept going and getting tests. They kept coming back negative. But I feel like we've forgotten that the flu is a thing also. You know what I'm saying? So we're just living in different times. But for me, man, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, man, I'm just going to pretty much keep my head ducked down, man, and just kind of just move past a lot of the of what's going on right now, because the numbers are just growing so much. Like the numbers are just, they're just growing and growing and growing. And I feel like the only way it's going to stop is for people to stay out of the way a little bit, or to at least make the effort to stay out of the way. And then if people stay out the way for a minute, then the numbers will drop down, and then they, can get more controlled and whatnot. But the thing about it, I also understand the financial aspect of it, where like, you know, I work for myself. So it's like I took time off of work when, you know, when I was ill, and it didn't like capsize my situation, where there's people that, man, they don't have that luxury. You know,
it's crazy times, bro. I mean, even than they've been since before Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
16 years ago, and all the, you know, you see it in stuff like that. And this is just, I don't know, man. It's like you're saying, man. I've been just trying to lay low, try to be as productive as I can. You know, as a writer and an artist, I can do things, and as an entrepreneur, I can still do some things while we're waiting for this thing to pass. I'm in the middle of shooting a couple of projects, and we've already been pushed back this year, by a couple of weeks. And so, and it's funny that you were talking about Coachella and liability. Every public place that you go in Georgia, there's a sign that says that, y'all have those in California?
No, but I know exactly. That's the smartest thing ever. Hey, man, you waive every right by you passing this threshold. If you cared to read it, if you didn't care to read it, but it was there letting you know that you are on your own, you know.
I was in, the last time I worked in LA was like maybe June or July of this past year. I was shooting that Showtime Lakers series.
Okay.
About the Showtime Lakers. And
okay.
Yeah, I think it premieres in this month, in January. They started playing a trailer for it. But anyway, the day before I left, I think I left on a Friday. I'm in the elevator at the Huntley Hotel in Santa Monica, and a guy gets in the elevator, and he says, tomorrow the mask mandate is back on, because that's when they were going through the Delta resurgence. And I was in LA for like a week, and I didn't realize it, but it was that week was like the first, y'all had just got out of prison, you know? And they had so many tourists there, man, because I'm like a block off of the ocean, right? I'd go to the pier, you know, go do my little exercise, really try to stay away from the crowds, but just in my way going back and forth to the ocean to exercise, man. It was like you had people who hadn't traveled for over a year, man. They were out there thick.
Yeah, man. Yeah, hey, man, let me tell you something. People been partying like it's 1999 for quite some time now, man. Quite some time, you know.
Right. That's crazy, man. But you know what, man? Several people have told me this. They said, man, 22 is gonna be a good year. You know, people have told me like, man, 22 is gonna be my year. It's about to be popping. I'm talking about influential people.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, you know, let's hope for the best. Let's stay safe.
I'm open to a glass of that, you know.
Exactly.
So no, man. I really appreciate you tapping in, man. We're gonna have to reach back out to you a little later in the year, man. I feel like this conversation is like so much. Like we really just condensed it down. Do you have any projects or anything you want to give a little shout out to right now, and then also give your social media information?
Absolutely, man. If you look under T Rosemore, Terence Rosemore, that's myself. I'm sorry, I think I'm T Rosemore Actor 1 on Twitter. But if you just look my name up, Terence Rosemore, you'll find me. I got a couple of things I'm working on. Unfortunately, I can't say a lot about them, but I am gonna be. We got this line called Funky Uncle Records. It used to be, well, it still is my music publishing, but you know, I'm kind of semi-retired out of the music industry. But we got some merch coming up in a couple of weeks. We're gonna be dropping the website, and you'll be able to order stuff, and you don't have to, you know, they'll ship it to you. But I just want to, hey man, great questions. I would love, hey bro, you got a brother for life, Greg C.
No, we have a conversation that we're gonna have next week, man. That 20-minute conversation I was telling you about, man. Because I think that
Look, I'm ready for it this week if you got time while you
Nah,
BSing.
all right. Nah, we'll squeeze it in. We'll squeeze it in. We'll squeeze
Yeah,
it
just
in.
let me know, man. But I think it's a great idea. Yeah, yeah. I'm writing right now, man. I've got I'm attached as a director to a zombie project called The Smiths, written by a good friend of mine on the West Coast named Jason McNeese, and I wrote a script with my son, a thriller called Mama. So those things are real. You know, we're not even close to shooting any of that. So I'm just kind of just trying to get it in while I got this time to write, bro.
Nah, that's right. Well, no, man, I'm definitely gonna hit you up. Well, no, man, this has been another episode of Splendid Radio on Fireside TV, and thank you, Terrence.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure, brother.